does he have a message to some of the 9/11 families who wanted to see a full trial, who wanted to see this kind of come to a fuller process?
So look, this is basically what Jake said. This is something that we had no involvement in. He didn't have any involvement in. And so the White House played no role in this process, and the president directed his team to consult as appropriate with officials and lawyers and Department of Defense, obviously. We have said this before. We are. Our hearts go out to the families who lost their loved ones on that day, and the president on 9/11 has honored them every year, and the families who lost their loved one on that terrible day. Real leaders do not tear people down. They don't question someone's identity.
You've discussed, obviously, the president's involvement, direct involvement in all of this. Can you talk us through any involvement that the vice president had? Was she also speaking directly to other leaders and allies?
So, as I said in my opening comments, both President Biden and Vice President Harris have made the return of unjustly detained American hostages an absolute priority. And in this particular case, Vice President Harris actually had an opportunity to engage with Chancellor Scholz earlier this year at an opportune and timely moment at the Munich Security Conference, where she talked about this issue with him. That followed on a conversation that the president had just a short time before that, and it was in the run of high-level engagements and a back and forth that the president and the chancellor were having that Vice President Harris was actually able to sit face-to-face with Chancellor Scholz and talk through the elements of this. And then I've sat in the Oval Office more times than I can count over the course of the past years, providing briefings and updates on this and getting peppered with questions by both the president and the vice president, thinking through the strategy, iterating the approach, which she was a participant in very much, a core member of the team that helped make this happen.
I want to ask you about the plea deal that was reached with 9/11 suspects by military courts down in Guantanamo. Republicans are condemning this as showing weakness and calling it a sweetheart deal because it avoids a trial and the death penalty. I'm just wondering if the administration has any response to that.
As we said last night, the White House received word that the convening authority had entered these pretrial agreements that had been negotiated by military prosecutors with KSM and some of the other 9/11 defendants. And we had no role in that process. The president had no role. The vice president had no role. I had no role. The White House had no role. And we were informed yesterday, the same day that they went out publicly, that this pretrial agreement had been accepted by the convening authority. What the president did upon learning of that was direct his team to consult as appropriate with officials and lawyers at the Department of Defense on this matter. Those consultations are ongoing, and I have nothing more to add at this time.
Can you talk about how the administration tries to make sure this doesn't incentivize more arrests of innocent Americans beyond what the president said, advising people not to go abroad in certain places, especially because you're looking at this inherent imbalance between between securing the release of innocent Americans in exchange for rightfully convicted criminals, including a murder?
Look, it's a fair question. It's a question that we grapple with every time that we look at the hard decisions involved in one of these exchanges. It is difficult to send back a convicted criminal